Okay, I'm going to get right into the issues here. And we live in a very racist world. We've been living like that for a long time. The government of Canada and the provinces, uh, because those people that originally formed this government came from Europe, they were heavily brainwashed into this uh, philosophy, this concept of doctrine of discovery, which said that all the colonist countries who had a connection with the Pope could enslave, they could ensure that any of the brown-skinned people in the world could not own land, and that this would therefore open everything up for them to exploit all the resources, which is exactly what they're doing right now in Canada. And the only problem they had, it was easy in other parts of the world because they could easily defeat the brown-skinned people there. They weren't as skilled as we were in warfare. And I want to remind everybody, we have never lost a war to anyone. We defeated the Americans. The Iroquois were instrumental at Niagara, and Ojibwe people, Three Fires, we were instrumental in at the Thames. And unfortunately, the British all ran away at that point, and I don't know who was retreating faster, either the Americans or the British military. I think the British military were retreating faster. But anyway, our people stayed and fought off the Americans. And I tell people, I said, oh, if there's ever a time in history when we had eminent domain over our land and rights, resources, it was in 1814 when the Americans pulled back. But it also secured the border with, so and Canada didn't exist. The only thing we fought for was our land. Traditionally, this is something you should be aware of. This is the real position of our people in the past. You own all your treaty lands. You own them. And this is Tecumseh speaking. I mean, that's why he fought all of those years he did, and of course he lost his life. But it was always with that same philosophy that you own your treaty areas. Now, one interesting thing you should note from this, and a lot of this stuff is in fairly new areas. And I've been telling people that your treaty, your rights that existed long before that, in 1850, you were set up long before Canada. And Canada, or the province, never come along and said, hey, we're going to include all your treaty areas in our borders, without ever talking to you. And we're going to harvest your resources without ever talking to you. But I will say one good thing. When the treaty was made, you had a great chief in here, in that what he identified, and this is for all of Canada as well, all the First Nations across Canada, he identified that you own the resources. They are yours. And well, there's other things. I'm not going to get into too much detail about it, but I've had maybe 30 years experience looking at Aboriginal treaty rights. I've worked on probably 400 different land claim kinds of cases. I got about 60 of them resolved, 3 from my own community. So I have a lot of experience. I don't say I know everything, but I do have a lot of experience, and I understand what's happening. But I would say that one of the things your nation should do is sit down and work out exactly what the hell your treaty and Aboriginal right, because they are attached to your treaty. What do they mean to you? What is it really that you own? Let's sit down and figure this all out, because it's all protected in the Constitution. And but that's a lot of work to do yet, you know. And then we've been I'll get to you. We've been held down so long from really pursuing the real legal, or I'll say Aboriginal treaty rights that you own, which are superior to federal and provincial law. They've kind of held us all back out of their greed and out of their suppression used by of course, the Canada's apartheid law, the Indian Act. Just one little comment about the Indian Act. The Indian Act essentially makes us subhumans to the European white man, who's the only one that can decide whether or not we're Indian. But of course, that's the wrong name for us too. But they set this sort of this legal regime in place, which, in my mind anyway, a lot of it can be overthrown with Section 35. It's depending on who's got the money and who's got the time to do all that. I mean, it's usually an expensive process. But I think when you're in a treaty area like you are, your situation is a little clearer, and I think a lot easier to probably resolve. But you got to fight. I remember one land claim I did, took me 22 years to negotiate it, and another one. Yeah, it's frustrating when you work with government. But if you don't do anything, they keep piling all this racist stuff on us, and look where we are today. Look at our unemployment status compared to the Canadians. Oh, this is one more thing. They would not consider us Canadian in the Indian Act, the original Indian Acts. We would have to apply for citizenship. So there was never any attention of us being Canadians. So you're not Canadians. You're whatever your nation is. That's what you are. And
boy.
Yep. Great players. We must have some Adawas here too. Yeah, I'm half Potawatomi and Ojibwe. But we're all Ojibwe.
We're all one.
Yep, we're all one. Yep. Yeah. And
we're all kids of Turtle Island.
Yep. But this will be probably a tough little fight, because we're fighting the top levels of both governments, really. For some reason I'm not even too worried about the chiefs and councils, because they're pretty much eunuchs in all of this, because they got no authority for anything, except they perceive some authorities that don't exist. But in the end, do your research, understand your nationhood, protect your treaty lands, your resources, and you don't need them running you. The way things are left today is that the people are the only ones that have the right of your nation to make those decisions for your nation. The Indian Act, chief and councils, they are run by the Minister of Indian Affairs, by the Caucasian governments. So, and maybe it's fortunate that John A. Macdonald saw fit not to give them any authority, because now what it does, it opens the door for our nations through whatever traditional means they can resurrect again, or if they have it in place, it essentially means chief and council can't even deal with your rights or lands, and that has to come from your people. I don't know how you're going to do that, but it's probably going to require a lot of work, but it's possible, and it's the right thing to do. And we got to get out of this manipulation of the Indian Act on us and government, so that you can move your people ahead to where you have an economy that can sustain you, and that's possible too. But under the restrictions of the government, they just want to get in there, make all the money they can out of the items they identified as resources or tax havens that they can raise all sorts of taxes on. But it is on our resources. And this has got to change. And the only way it's going to change is if you stand up. And this is a start. So I'm not going to say anything more. I'll just add one more comment on the policing, okay, so that you understand that too. Originally, we signed a policing agreement in, I believe it was in 1976. I signed the first one. But the intention of the policing agreement was that, okay, we'll start with, I think it was 51% from the feds, 49% from the province. And we did it that way because we'd always run into racism from the OPP, from the province's provincial, or their provincial police. And I know in my community, we kicked them out at one time because of that racism, and brought them back. But the problem with it today is that it's never gone beyond that. What you should have in place is a whole your whole police, I won't say department, but a police setup where you have all of the instruments you need to conduct investigations. You have all the different authorities so that you can run things according to your rights, and according to your control over the police. Right now, the province can't enforce any provincial law on your lands, even though they've been coming on. I've been telling people, well, when we look at it, and I know somebody's even been threatened with Section 30 trespass, but they can't use the trespass section against your own people because you all own the land too. And the other problem chief and council have is they're not an Indian. Really, in reality, the way the court system had worked in the past is you have to invite a non-Indian onto your property. Otherwise, they're trespassing. Okay, so every time the OPP enters reserve property, they are essentially trespassing because they have no right to operate. All they are is a corporation, a sub-corporation of the government of Canada, and a corporation doesn't supersede your rights. And it's also protected under Section 88 of the Indian Act, which says, subject to the terms of any treaty, of course they make the statement, all laws of general application apply, except to the extent they interfere with the treaty rights. So you've got them eliminated there too.
That's why nobody's represented in here.
Yeah. So all of these things are really up in the air. They're operating in a whole gray area, and that letter that is going to be delivered hopefully will require them or obligate them to explain what their position is. I could do it in a few minutes, but they can't. No, they.
I can't keep them.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, but
I was a carpenter all my life, and so I went back to school because I'm out of carpentry now. I'm working on a bachelor's degree in fine art, but I took National Bay as my studies. This here is our land, okay? This is ours.
Yep.
We rule this. Now, all
Your
their
people, your
policies,
nation owns it.
all their policies and everything, and the Indian Act.
Yep, that's.
I don't agree. I don't like to say too much, but I can't keep my mouth shut sometimes.
Yep.
You know.
What they're doing is
And
wrong.
what we need, like you said, is everybody to get together. We all got to stand as one. And then once we get one on, get another one on, get another one on. And then once we're done getting everybody, this whole place could be a better world. Okay, I'll make it short.